Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an upload that I really put a lot of passion into. If you are one of those folks who don't believe in cryptids, don't believe in Dogman, don't believe in Bigfoot, and also don't believe that the government, whether it be local, state, or federal, is trying to pull the wool over our eyes, this upload is for you as well. This upload is something that my research is centered around, a passion. But before we get into that, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. Please also share this video and all the others you watch on this channel. And lastly, folks, leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload. Shall we? All right. So this upload is really aimed at the attacks that have happened. And the government in their cover-up. And gonna go pretty deep today. When I started the channel, it started out with like some narrations. Then I decided to share my own experiences, paranormal and Dogman related. Then I started to interview people. And then I really took interest in the Tom Mezit case and started to go on location to where his disappearance happened. And at the same time, I started to look at these cases where people were being attacked and the media and the government, whether it be local, state, or federal, were lying about that and covering them up. And I really have put forth 100% effort into researching those cases. Back when Brenda Hamilton, the teacher who was beloved by her community, was attacked, I covered her case 3 days after she died. Corey Godsey, a day after he was attacked and succumbed to his wounds. These cases really mean a lot to me. So much so that these are the files for those cases. Christopher Whiteley, Texas. I could keep going. There's so much more. And I looked at them 2-3 days after these attacks happened, and you can go back and look in the video videos on the channel and look at the dates when I covered them, and they will coincide. And I only say that because so much time has passed by so many cases, and like I said, these cases really do mean a lot because these are people These are people who were attacked, made national news for a week, a month. Brenda Hamilton, 2 years. Even though there has not been any new news about her case, there hasn't been in about a year. And, you know, I never forget about these people. But I don't want to rehash the attacks all the time. But I figure, hey, you know, every once in a while there's a time and a place. And this one case led me down a rabbit hole so deep that I almost didn't want to come back from. And I'm going to share a lot of that information with you today. And I'm going to share some demographics with you guys so you guys can see the locations of where everything went down and how disgusting the government is. First and foremost, these creatures are, I'm not going to say doing what they know best, but they are. They're doing what they know to do. If they are a wild animal, you know, a wild animal attacks. Not all the time, but you get my gist, right? Our government and our media is supposed to, 1, keep us informed, the media, 2, protect the safety of the population. Neither one don't do their job. And this is a case that, well, happened back in 2021. And that's when I covered it. Actually, I covered the first part of the case April 4th, when Tony Ahrens was found dead on April 1st. So, Newport, Tennessee. The body of a Newport man found dead on April 1st bore all the signs of an animal attack, an autopsy report states. An animal, apparently a dog, had bitten, chewed, and torn at Ahrens before death, the autopsy by the Regional Forensic Center in Knoxville showed. Scene investigation revealed scattered clothing, paw marks in the soft dirt, and scattered blood on the ground, which are consistent with an animal attack, the report states. WBIR obtained a copy of that report on Tuesday. Ahrens was found dead at around 12:40 a.m. April 1st in a yard of a home near Carnation Way and Jimtown Road, according to records. That's near where Charles E. Owensby, 69, lives. Owensby, a dog owner and trainer, reported finding Ahrens' body, according to the incident report. Ahrens is the first of 2 people who appeared to have been victims of an animal attack in the area on July 12th. Authorities reported that the body injured 29-year-old Amber Miller had been found in the same general area, screaming for help with dogs standing near her. Miller died of her injuries. An autopsy report showed that she had extensive dog bite injuries, with many of them found on her arms and legs. It was also said there were multiple cuts around her head and neck, including puncture wounds along her shoulder and near her abdomen. It is said she died of complications of multiple organ failure as a result of the attack. On July 19th, the Cott County Sheriff's Office served a search warrant on Owensby's property at 522 Carnation Way. On July 28th, they went to Owensby's ex-wife, Cecilia McCarter's home in Edwina Community and served another warrant. An aggressive dog was taken into custody, and Owensby was charged with a marijuana possession. Investigators gathered DNA evidence from 2 other dogs on the property, that belonged to other people who lived at the residence of the property, according to Cott County Sheriff Armando Fuentes. Authorities also dug up a shallow grave containing remains of a dog and collected DNA samples for further testing. Owensby has a pending felony domestic assault case in Cott County, for which he is due in court August 16th. That case dates back to 2018. It's alleged that he tried to strangle a woman who had reportedly sought an order of protection against him. Here's Tony Ahrens' autopsy details. Dr. Christopher Lockmuller of the Forensic Center cites multiple animal-induced injuries as a reason for Ahrens' death. He was found lying on the night of April 1st on his right side with obvious soft tissue injuries. At least one animal also had torn clothing. His injuries included ruptured veins in his left arm, another partially ruptured vein in the same arm. He also had numerous abrasions on his torso, neck, and head. Some very deep puncture wounds on his head and neck, according to the report. Whether this was one animal or more than one animal, and what type of animal it is unknown, Lockmuller report states. The wounds appeared to have been inflicted before his death. Methamphetamine was found in his system, according to the report. Now, this is the first article from Tony Ahrens. Once again, I'm sharing this with you because I don't want these cases to ever be forgotten. And I want to show you how corrupt this government is. This is the case that Brenda Hamilton really touched me because of the community and stuff. But this is the case that made me go deep into this. Ahrens' body. Cott County authorities released preliminary details regarding a body found April 1st near the intersection of Jimtown Road and Carnation Way on April 1st. Charles Owensby of Carnation Way told Deputy Sergeant Heath Willis he found a male body near his mailbox at 12:40 a.m. Sergeant Willis said the body had been identified as Tony Allen Ahrens, 52 years old, of Love Park, Illinois. The body appeared to have been partially devoured by an animal, and Chief Cott County Deputy C.J. Ball said an autopsy is being conducted to determine the cause of death, as well as to determine what type of animal was involved. Newport Patrol Officer Jesse Burgess recognized the victim as Ahrens, and investigators say they located an individual who had talked to Ahrens at 9:30 prior to his body being found. So his body was found 3 hours after talking to whoever he was talking to. Now, I want to touch on two things here real quick that were mentioned. Armando Fuentes. I picked on him a lot and said tutu wearing Armando Fuentes back in the day. Because when I was looking into these cases, I looked on Cott County, Tennessee Police Facebook. And he was in a tutu with his sheriff's outfit, or sheriff's uniform, and an AR-15 in hand. And I kind of found that stupid and odd. In between the time that Tony Ahrens was attacked and Amber Miller was attacked. So he had the humor to pose for this, knowing full well that something went out and attacked one man and killed him. In that article, C.J. Ball is mentioned. I spoke to C.J. Ball, and I had it recorded. It's on the channel. He was very rude to me. He didn't want to speak about the case because it was an ongoing case. And I just said, hey, a couple details. The only thing he did tell me, and this was after all of this case kind of died down. I'd say November of 2022 is when I contacted them again for like the 5th or 6th time. I asked where Owensby was, and they said he was out of jail. CJ Ball is now the sheriff instead of being a deputy. They had an election and canned Fuentes for whatever reason. I know what reason, because he didn't. Look at this. I mean, look at this stack. When you want a case to be quiet, you don't have stack of news like this, do you? No. And when the sheriff can't do his job and have these cases be quiet, you end up getting rid of him, don't you? Notice the media commented on Tony Ahrens having methamphetamine in his system. This next news article, the next actually two, is the two that really pushed me over the edge. When reading the first Tony Ahrens, I was like, that's kind of weird. The partially devoured, large paw prints in the sand, and the mention of the methamphetamine, right? Then this comes out. An animal attack caused the death of 52-year-old Tony Ahrens, according to autopsy report from Knox County Regional Forensic Center. According to the report, Ahrens died of multiple animal-induced injuries. Ahrens' death was ruled an accident, the medical examiner determined. Now, they keep saying animal, but yet the police and the district attorney keep pushing dog, right? We'll get into this. Autopsy reveals that Ahrens had multiple animal-induced injuries, puncture wounds, lacerations, contusions, torn veins, and loss of his left arm, including multiple bite wounds. Whether this was one or more than one animal, and what type of animal, is unknown, the autopsy reads. Autopsy disclosed large paw marks and blood found on the ground where Ahrens' body lay. The report reveals that Ahrens tested positive for methamphetamine. According to the medical examiner, blood levels of 200 through 600 milliliters of methamphetamine are typically reported in those who abuse the drug and exhibit violent or irrational behavior. Test shows 1,000 milliliters of methamphetamine in Ahrens' system. So he's dead, torn apart, yet he was irrational and violent. Here's another thing I want you to think of. Yes, people on methamphetamine, I mean, we heard it in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up on the news all the time. Methamphetamine turned people into, super strength, very agile, just monsters. You didn't want to fight a dude on meth. You'd, bite your freaking ear off. Yet this man succumbed to something that attacked him. And he had 1,000 milliliters of meth in him. That's a little weird, right? The second victim, 29-year-old Amber Miller, was attacked on July 12th. According to the report, officials were told by witnesses Miller was found at 522 Jimtown Road asking for help. 3 dogs were spotted around Miller, licking her wounds where she had been attacked. The witness was able to take Miller to the hospital, where the medical staff described her injuries as severe, noting her calf was ripped off and her arms barely attached to her body. There's a couple of things that are redacted in this. Why would they redact? Some of this is weird to me. But then it gets even stranger. Amber Miller told investigators at the hospital she had fallen into a bush. The autopsy narrative obtained by News 10 this week showed a different story. Witnesses told authorities 3 dogs attacked Miller in the front yard of 522 Carnation Way in Newport County. Sheriff's Office Detective Daniel Smith said they appeared to be a Mastiff, a Cane Corso, and a Shepherd Pit Bull mix. Miller's left upper extremity was amputated, and approximately 42% of her skin was gone. The manner of death is accidental. Toxology report, she tested positive for multiple drugs, including amphetamine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. Still, the medical examiner ruled the extensive injuries from the animal attack are ultimately what led to her death. Miller was found in the same location where 52-year-old Tony Ahrens was found, mauled and bitten back in April of 2021. Autopsy for Ahrens revealed investigators found scattered clothing, paw marks in the soft dirt, scattered blood on the ground near the scene, all of which are consistent with an animal attack. That's near where Charles Owensby, 69, lives. Owensby, a dog owner trainer, reported finding Ahrens' body and called 911. No one was arrested or charged by Cott County Sheriff's Office in the weeks after the attacks. That's not true. And it just increasingly got worse and worse. Because well, here, I don't even need this. We'll get back into those, but that article right there said that she was speaking at the time that she was in the hospital. She told doctors, "I fell into a bush." There's another article in here that I'm going to share with you that states from a nurse that she was not coherent. She wasn't awake. They put her, I believe, in a medically induced coma, so she couldn't talk. The man who found her never said that there was a Cane Corso, very descriptive, right? Shepherd Pit Bull mix, Cane Corso, and Mastiff. Those 3 dogs were never found. The dogs that were taken from Owensby's ex-wife's house, miles away from the incident, were scrappy little mutts. And I'm not saying that being mean, because we all know mutts are the best kind of dog anyway. I mean, I'm a cat person, but dogs are awesome. But they weren't a Cane Corso, a Mastiff, and a Shepherd Pit Bull mix. Why so descriptive? The only reason why they were being so descriptive is to make the lie more realistic, right? All right, so then they really start playing dirty, right? We've already established that 2 people had been savagely attacked, obviously not by a man. The only man present in the first attack was the 911 reporter, Charles Owensby, who lived in that location. He didn't have a Cane Corso, a Pit Bull, or a Mastiff, or a Pit Bull Shepherd. Actually, there was no dogs on the scene. There were dogs on the scene back in 2014, 7 years prior, which we'll get into, which this is just them being... What they did was, we'll get into it more too, but what they did was they used the media to report these tragic attacks, right? Knowing full well that the public is going to demand answers. What attacked these people? What is out there? Dogs. Must be Charles Owensby. African American, 69 years old, with a record, was a dog trainer back in the day. Even though there were no dogs on that location. And then they just started a smear campaign. A toxicology report states that amphetamine and methamphetamine were found in Ahrens' bloodstream. Cott County Armando Fuentes previously stated the use of methamphetamine was believed to be a contributing factor. Details on alleged animal attacks that occurred on Jimtown Road in Newport are still limited. Days after the second victim had died due to her injuries. Chief Deputy C.J. Ball, who is now sheriff, released a statement saying that both cases are still under investigation and more information would be released once it's obtained. He urges members of the public to be cautious when traveling in the area. Anyone that is traveling on Jimtown Road should use caution until the investigation concludes with all the facts, and we can further gain information about what did happen during the incidents. Ball said we cannot release any other information at this time due to case credibility. Interviews are being performed and search warrants are being served as of Wednesday morning. This would be in July. Who are you interviewing? No one was there. The office has released the two reports. And they keep talking about the 3 dogs licking her wounds. Now, the man who found Amber Miller got out of his car and walked right up to the dogs. And they were not a Cane Corso, a Mastiff, or a Pit Bull Shepherd mix. They were scrappy little mutts, and they were licking her wounds. They weren't biting her. If they were the ones that attacked, they'd still be biting her. They'd still be savagely. Actually, I'm driving down the road, and I saw this girl sitting by a tree, and there's dogs sitting around, and she's, screaming for help. I don't want to die. But dogs are licking her. If they were the savage dogs that the sheriff's office and the DA's office and the news articles tell us, they would have attacked him as well. This is where it gets disgusting, the smear campaign, like I just said. Suspected dogs. They tested 4 dogs. They dug up one. The 2, my dad and mom own, which are 7 months old. And the one taken into custody. That dog, Greg claimed, is 17 years old. The only reason they took her is because they had to arrest Charlie, and she couldn't stay with my grandma. He had a dog that was 17 years old. Charles Owensby has had dogs, Greg acknowledged, as he was a well-known dog trainer. But about a month or 2 ago, someone killed all of his dogs except for one, which is the one that the cops took into custody. They were killed weeks before Amber was. This appears to be the first and only public claim that any of the dogs suspected of attacking the people in the vicinity had been killed. They weren't killed by law enforcement. They were not euthanized because his dogs weren't there when the only dogs that were taken into custody were the ones in Edwina, miles away from where Owensby lived. So what killed his dogs? Could it have been the same thing that killed Tony Ahrens and Amber Miller? I do believe so. And here we go. Tony Ahrens was reportedly homeless, living under a 19th century railway bridge near the scene of his death, though he was locally employed. Amber Miller was reportedly raised by her grandparents after her dad, Robert Scott Miller, 26, a 5-year Cott County deputy sheriff in October of 1994, was shot dead while helping the FBI apprehend 2 fugitives. Both Amber Miller and her mom, Cindy Miller, struggled with substance abuse and occasionally an arrest. Amber Miller charged in 2018. Most seriously, Amber Miller was charged January of 2018 on 3 counts of child abuse and neglect after calling to tell Cott County Sheriff's Office that the first one of her children had stopped and then another had stopped breathing, and that she was having trouble breathing herself. Morristown's Citizens Tribune reported Miller told officers she was taking Suboxone while breastfeeding. She failed the subsequent tests for amphetamine, methamphetamine, and buprenorphine, and MDMA, ecstasy. Subsequent to that, though, both Amber and Cindy Miller appeared to have turned their lives around. Cindy Miller, someone needs to be held accountable for this. I was there when she was made as she grew up and held her while she died in my arms, just as she was born. Scott, her dad, gave up his life in defense of our county citizens. We used to be a part of that justice community, not any longer. I gave 10 years of my life working for county ambulance service, 3 years for 911. I also coach sports in the community every season, dedicated to give Amber what she needed. My baby is now gone, and I had to watch her die. So, then a couple of press statements came out. This one was on Facebook. Considering the amount of false and misleading information of the animal attacks, we ask the public to just listen to what law enforcement releases to the public. Individuals are making assumptions and non-facts of the investigation and will not provide accurate info. These families need closure and respect. The investigation on both attacks is under a strong investigation, and long hours are worked each day. The more we put out to the public could devastate the case. We will release as much as we can when feasible, but we will not release anything that could jeopardize the case. That first is not closed and was under investigation, still ongoing. Autopsy reports results are not complete and can only be released to the next of kin. That's the Facebook, and we ask for prayers for the family and friends and our law enforcement. That was from Cott County Sheriff's Office. Of course, they released another one when the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, were called in, because they were called in eventually. This is an interesting statement. If the dogs were present during Tony Ahrens's incident, why weren't they caged and rounded up after that attack? Why were they not immediately impounded on probable cause warrant and their feces tested for the presence of DNA from the victim of Ahrens? Because there were no dogs there, except his 17-year-old dog. And then this is where things get real strange for Charles Owensby. So the news at that point, we just covered the attacks. We covered the attacks and how shady everything was around the attack and the investigation. Okay? None of this is pointing to a dog. I mean, they've already taken dogs from the area, or from not even from the area, miles away. They didn't take the 17-year-old dog and DNA test it, though. Why would they? The thing probably didn't even have teeth. Documents obtained by 10 News show the address of the attack belonging to Charles Everett Owensby, who first reported the attack. Owensby, 69, has a history of criminal charges, although many of them have been dismissed. In 2014, court affidavits show his dog was on the front porch and became aggressive with police. Documents say Owensby ran out the back door as police identified themselves. At the time, they were serving a warrant for a possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, reckless endangerment with a weapon, aggravated assault, and violating an order of protection. The charges stemmed from a 2014 gas station brawl in which Charles Owensby told Newport police that Charles Olden told Newport police that Owensby approached him with a gun, pointed it at him, and said, "We are going to end this today." Olden said Owensby had struck him in the face with the handgun and told him he was going to have his dog attack him. Owensby then attempted to run Olden over. Most of those counts were dismissed, although he was found guilty and fined for evading the arrest and an attempted assault. Charges were still pending against him in a 2018 aggravated domestic assault. There are numerous other assault and battery charges listed on Owensby's record, including ones from Georgia and Florida. News 10 is continuing to search for answers in the death of Amber Miller and Tony Ahrens. We asked whether any action had been taken against the animals in the area and whether they were owned by Owensby. CJ Ball said we can't release that information. Well, because they weren't. Okay, so then they pop Owensby on that he's got this crime. This is a 69-year-old African-American man. Okay, and I do believe that race had a part in targeting him. And I'm not being too far-fetched on this because he obviously was a criminal. Not everyone's perfect, you know. But he was 69 years old. He was almost 70. He's probably knocking on death's door at the time. You know, he's got these charges pending from 2018. 3 years. Chances are they're going to be dropped. So then when they do the warrant for the Edwina thing, they pop Owensby there with a 1/4 ounce of weed. In Tennessee, apparently, that gets you jail time. He's arrested and brought in and released after posting a $1,000 bond. Then Owensby reports that someone had shot a bullet through his camper. At around 2:30 a.m., the deputy was dispatched, did see a bullet hole in the camper facing Jimtown Road, but did not see any shell casings in the yard or driveway, according to investigators. He also said, Charles Owensby also said, that road employee had been screaming murderer at him in the mornings. Deputy advised the captain of the claimed incidents and agreed to get in contact with Owensby. During this time, Owensby was allegedly very upset, and he said he would retaliate if they killed his dog, his 17-year-old dog. Criminal Investigation Division found that the alleged bullet holes, there was only one, now it's holes, were already there in the from a previous incident. Owensby was charged with filing a false report. Owensby is listed as the original person who found Tony Ahrens on April 1st. Authorities have been investigating Ahrens' death along with the death of Amber Miller for months now. This is report showed deputies responded to 522 Carnation Way at 9:10 a.m. September 20th, Owensby told deputies someone shot through his camper at 2:30 a.m. that morning. Report states deputies found what appeared to be a bullet hole and went through the camper, the left side that faces Jimtown Road. Owensby went on to say a white 2010 to 2016 model Chevrolet pickup truck had been driven down the road when he heard the shot. Deputies could not find the rounds as it did not lodge into the camper during the course of the investigation. Criminal Investigation Division, CDI, found the alleged bullet hole were already there based on prior inspection of the camper. Owensby was charged with filing a false report. Owensby was taken into custody after served on a warrant for failure to appear. 69-year-old Owensby was initially arrested in August while police served a search warrant on a residence in relation to the two animal attacks. Owensby was taken into possession of marijuana. New information on the attacks had been released. So, they need a scapegoat. Let's use the guy who called 911. We can make this fit into this really nice media circus they created and not even really focus on what these cases are about. Tony Ahrens, Amber Miller. You've already humiliated their families and their memory. Shame on you, Cott County Sheriff's Department. Shame on all of you. You and the media disgrace their memory. There was no need for their toxicology report to be listed in those articles in an animal attack. And then for Fuentes, Armando, to come out publicly and say methamphetamine was a contributing factor to their deaths. Pardon my French, but the guy's an asshole. I don't care if he's former sheriff, president of the United States. You do that to your people that you are sworn to protect. And you humiliate them and you disrespect their memory. So then they go after the one person they can, Owensby. Right? 69-year-old African-American man. Poor with a criminal history. Bust him on the pot charge, $1,000. The reason why they did that is because they wanted to know where he was so they could maybe plant evidence, maybe plant something. He posted $1,000. Boom, he's out. Someone shoots his trailer. They then say, oh, it was there. We couldn't find any casings. Any of you guys know that first it could have been done from that Chevrolet that was reported, and the round could have dropped in the truck. Second, they could have picked up their round. They could have picked up their casings. Third, they could have used a revolver. Bottom line. Let's just arrest him again. Let's keep him quiet. Let's keep him from not talking to the media. Mind you, he hadn't been, but they were worried about him talking to the media. Then failure to appear. Why would he want to appear when you're just, not even on the 2018 case? Failure to appear on filing a false charge. Or false report, excuse me. So there you go. You've got a whole list of craziness that really dishonored these two people who lost their lives in their family. I had a subscriber who went down to the location on his motorcycle and found the homeless encampment where Tony Ahrens lived. All right, so that red mark is where 522 Jimtown Road is. Okay. Pretty secluded area with the Pigeon River right there. This is Jimtown Road right here. This is where Tony Ahrens' homeless encampment is. This is a very rural, isolated area. With a lot of woods and a river system right here. So, one of the subscribers that I have goes down to Jimtown Road. He lives in the location. He lives fairly close to the area. It's a nice day out. He gets on his motorcycle and goes for a drive or a ride. He drives past 522, gets down to the homeless encampment by the train trestle. He tells me that the second he gets on Jimtown Road, even though he's on his motorcycle, that he had a very, very dreadful feeling. And as he was going down the road, he said, I felt like I was being watched. Same road that CJ Ball said, folks, don't go down this road. It's dangerous. He meets up with these homeless people and asks, hey, do you guys feel at risk here? Are you guys in danger? And the homeless people tell them, hey, this gentleman says, hey, there are canine-like creatures in these woods. We've seen them go to the water. We've seen them hunt. We have enough people where we do feel safe, but where else are we going to go? We're the scourge. That's not my words, but in their eyes. And not even in their eyes, in the eyes of this godforsaken political BS called Cott County, Tennessee. And if anyone lives in Cott County, I am not insulting you. I am insulting your local sheriff department and DA and Newport Police Department, because the homeless are a scourge to them. So let's put them down here. Maybe they'll get eaten by the Dogman. We feel safe because there's a lot of us. But you need to leave before it gets dark. Because one of these things will come out as you are riding down the road at dark and rip you off your motorcycle and take you, and you will never be seen again. That's per one of these people that live down in the encampment. It's a pure media cover-up with no new information. Nothing. Now, you may be saying, well, why are you sharing this now, Jeff? You shared it 2 years ago. I did. But that's just this case. But why should Tony Ahrens and Amber Miller be forgotten? Why should Brenda Hamilton, Christopher Whiteley, and the many more, Corey Godsey, 13-year-old kid, Knott County, Kentucky. You don't hear anything from the news anymore. Department of Homeland Security was there to clean that mess up. TBI cleaned this mess up along with Knott County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department. And of course the FBI was up where Tom Mezek disappeared to clean that mess up. Maybe. There's no other reason why they'd be there. I will never forget these cases. 2 years ago, I shared these cases with you. Almost every 3 days when I got new information. And it disgusted me and it turned my stomach. And I won't ever forget any of these cases. Because right here, that's what my channel's about. That information getting shared. You guys coming on and sharing your experiences or having me narrate them. You guys sharing your theories, your info, and putting this puzzle together. But I will never forget any of these people who are in these case files. None of them. It's tragic, it's disgusting. The government is meant to keep us safe, and they don't. And then when they can't do their job correctly, they use the media to lie to us. Why else would they create such a defamation on Tony and Amber? They were the ones that were attacked. Why? Because if you are in your kitchen or at your computer at night, get out of work, get up in the morning, and you're reading the paper, and you're like, oh man, this girl was a drug addict, she was CPS, her kids, she's better off being dead. Who cares? Because you'll forget about it. That's why they'll dig until they can find something nasty enough so when these things are shared, the public says, we're better off without them. They didn't deserve that attack. How do we know that they weren't trying to turn their lives around? And once again, it just goes to show that I believe Dogmen and these other creatures attack and have a tendency of encountering people with drug addiction, mental health issues, just because the media and the local, state, and federal government forgot about these people. I will not. And I will periodically share one of these accounts with you, so they know that we didn't forget about them, because I wouldn't want to be forgotten about. And I doubt any of you would want to either. With that being said, you guys are the support, the everything of this channel. You guys are what makes this channel special. And the amount of gratitude I have is immense. I can't give back to you what you guys do for this channel. Except thank you. Guys, please stay safe, happy, healthy. But ever vigilant. Don't end up to be one of these statistics, or a family member of yours be a statistic. Share the info and the information we have with those loved ones. Because that's the only way we can keep them safe, is by sharing that info. If they don't want to take heed to it, then that's on them. But at least we did our part, right? God bless you all.